In the long shadow of the HIV/AIDS crisis, when fear often eclipsed compassion, one woman showed up every week with food, music, and love. Her name was Rita Rockett, and for nearly 15 years she transformed the sterile halls of San Francisco General Hospital's Ward 5B into something resembling a family gathering. During the 1980s and early 1990s, AIDS wards were places many avoided. Patients, overwhelmingly gay men, were frequently abandoned by families, stigmatized by society, and treated as untouchable. Ward 5B, however, became a quiet exception. It was the nation's first dedicated AIDS unit, staffed by caregivers who chose compassion over fear. Rita Rockett was not a nurse or a doctor. She was a volunteer, and every Sunday, she became something else entirely: a lifeline. Rockett began hosting weekly brunches for patients at Ward 5B, cooking meals, bringing flowers, and insisting on joy in a place defined by loss. She sang, she laughed, she listened. Patients affectionately dubbed her the Brunch Goddess, a title that captured not spectacle, but devotion. At a time when disposable gloves and isolation were still debated, Rockett hugged patients, held hands, and treated them as people whose lives still mattered. Her work unfolded alongside some of the most harrowing years of the epidemic. Treatments were experimental, death was constant, funerals were routine. Yet Rockett returned week after week, often funding the brunches herself, creating moments of normalcy in a system that offered little comfort. For many patients, Sunday brunch wasn't just a meal, it was proof they had not been forgotten. Rockett's story and those of her fellow caregivers later reached wider audiences through the documentaries We Were Here and 5B, both of which chronicle the courage of those who stood their ground when others turned away. These films cemented Ward 5B as a symbol of humane care during one of America's most devastating public health crises. Now living in Hawaii, Rockett was welcomed back to San Francisco on March 8th with open arms and deep gratitude. At a benefit event in the Castro, friends, activists, and former hospital staff celebrated her legacy while raising funds for the PRC Emergency Financial Assistance Fund, continuing the work of caring for people living with HIV/AIDS today. Rita Rockett never sought recognition. She simply showed up, consistently, tenderly, and without hesitation. In an era defined by silence and stigma, her Sunday brunches were acts of quiet rebellion, and decades later, their impact still echoes through the lives she touched and the city that remembers her.